There is a moment in 1527 that nobody talks about. Not the fog, not the breach, not the 147. The moment the Landsknechts reach the steps of St. Peter's and stop. And for just a second they hesitate, because they recognize who is standing there. Most people think the story of the Swiss Guard is about loyalty. It is, but the reason that loyalty meant anything at all on that morning is a story that starts 40 years earlier, with an emperor who watched the Swiss destroy every army in Europe and decided the solution was simple: build a copy. What followed was not a rivalry between two armies. It was a war between an original and the imitation, built to erase it, fought across 30 years and a dozen Italian battlefields. Settled, finally, on a set of marble steps in Rome, in the worst possible way. By the 1480s, Swiss mercenaries are not just good soldiers. They are the only soldiers that matter. Every major power in Europe wants them. France, Venice, Milan, the papacy. The highest bidder wins, and the Swiss collect from everyone. There is a saying that spreads across courts and counting houses from Paris to Rome: no money, no Swiss. Once paid, they are absolute. No other infantry in Europe operates this way. The reason goes back 2 centuries to the mountain passes of Switzerland. Morgarten, 1315. A Habsburg army of armored knights invades Swiss territory. The Swiss are peasants, no cavalry, no noble commanders, no plate armor. They have pikes, poleaxes, and the high ground above a narrow pass. The knights ride in. The Swiss drop on them from above. The Habsburg army is destroyed. It is not a fluke. At Laupen in 1339, 10,000 enemies surround Swiss infantry. The Swiss form a massive pike square and dare the cavalry to charge. The cavalry charges. Horses impale on 18-foot steel points. The square does not move. At Nancy in 1477, the Swiss attack through a blinding snowstorm and destroy the finest army in Western Europe within hours. Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, dies on that field. His body is found days later, stripped and frozen. 2 centuries of this build something that cannot be faked: a culture of absolute commitment. A soldier who does not calculate survival odds because the oath he swore does not have a survival clause. That is what every European power is paying for when they hire the Swiss. Not just the pike technique, the psychology behind it. Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I thinks he can buy that psychology wholesale. He is wrong. But the army he builds while trying is going to change everything. 1482. Maximilian watches the Swiss in action and does not despair. He takes notes. He hires Swiss veterans to train German recruits from Swabia. He copies the pike formations exactly. The discipline, the shock tactics, the terrifying silence before contact. He calls them Landsknechts, servants of the land. The Swiss notice immediately, and the response is not alarm, it is contempt. In Swiss official documents, the word Landsknecht first appears as a category. Mercenaries recruited outside the Confederacy. The Swiss coin the name themselves, and the name means the fake ones, the knockoffs, recruited outside, meaning not us. They define the Landsknechts as inferior before a single battle is fought between them. The Landsknechts know exactly what the Swiss think of them. So they lean into it. Where the Swiss dress in sober canton colors, the Landsknechts wear slashed doublets in violent colors, crimson and yellow, plumed hats, silk ribbons on steel gauntlets. They carry a short, broad sword with an S-shaped guard they call the Katzbalger, the cat skinner. One chronicler writes that the devil himself refused to let Landsknechts into hell because he was afraid of them. But the Swiss call them what they have always called them: the imitation. On the battlefield, the imitation is terrifyingly good. Good enough that within a decade, every major power in Europe has Landsknecht regiments on payroll alongside their Swiss ones. Good enough that the Swiss monopoly begins to crack, and that is when the bad wars start. The Italian wars begin in 1494. For 30 years, they grind across the peninsula, reshaping every border and breaking every alliance. And on almost every major battlefield, Swiss and Landsknecht pike squares end up on opposing sides. Italian observers watch what happens when they meet and give it a name: bad war. In normal Renaissance combat, mercenaries calculate. When the outcome is clear, the losing formation withdraws. Dead men collect no wages. Professional soldiers do not throw their lives away for a lost position. His man's knechts do not do this to each other. No quarter asked, no quarter given. Two massive pike squares crash together, and neither side yield. The pikes become too short for the range. Men fight with halberds, then swords, then knives, then hands. Hans Holbein the Younger paints one of these engagements, bodies locked together in a single heaving mass. No formation left, no tactics left. Just two groups of men trying to erase each other. The hatred is professional, financial, and deeply personal all at once. Every contract the Landsknechts win is a contract the Swiss lose. Every battle the Landsknechts survive proves the copy does not need the original. And the Swiss cannot stand it, because the Landsknechts are good enough to be threatening, but not good enough in the Swiss view to deserve to exist. The Landsknechts fight like they have something to prove, because they do. 30 years of bad war, and neither side gets a clean answer. But the Italian wars are about to produce something that no battlefield has managed. An army so far beyond anyone's control that the man who built it suffers a stroke trying to stop it. 1526. Holy Roman Emperor Charles V has defeated the French at Pavia and controls most of northern Italy. Pope Clement VII, watching Charles become too powerful, makes the decision to side with France. Charles does not personally order what comes next. He does not need to. Georg von Frundsberg is 60 years old, a veteran commander, and the man they call the father of the Landsknecht. He has spent his life building the force that challenged the Swiss monopoly. When imperial funding collapses, Frundsberg raises a new army of 10,000 Landsknechts out of his own pocket, his personal fortune, his estates, everything. He reportedly carries a golden noose, telling his men it is for the Pope. By early 1527, the combined imperial force is 20,000 strong and has not been paid in months. 14,000 Landsknechts, 6,000 Spanish infantry, hungry, furious, and staring south at the wealthiest city in Christendom. Many of the Landsknechts are Lutheran. The Reformation has swept through their ranks. They do not see Rome as a target of opportunity. They see it as divine justice. In March, the army mutinies. Frundsberg tries to address his own troops and calm the revolt. Mid-speech, he collapsed. A stroke. The father of the Landsknechts goes down in front of the force he spent everything to build. He never recovers. He is carried from the field and dies 2 years later. His army marches on Rome without him. May 6th, before dawn, thick fog rolls across the city. The imperial army breaches the walls under cover of the fog. The city militia, 5,000 armed civilians, takes one look and run. Within hours, 20,000 soldiers are inside Rome. Swiss Guard Captain Kaspar Röist receives the reports. Walls breached, militia gone, imperial troops already killing in the Borgo district. He makes the decision. 42 guards take the Pope through the Passetto di Borgo, the secret elevated corridor to Castel Sant'Angelo. The remaining 147 hold the steps. Röist's wife finds him before the battle and begs him to go with the escort. He refuses. Not one guard asks to go instead. Not one. When the Landsknechts reach the steps, there is that moment. 147 men in striped uniforms hold halberds. These are not strangers. These are the Swiss, the originals. The men the Landsknechts were built to replace and spent 30 years failing to replace. The imperials laugh. Then they charge. The battle lasts 6 hours. The Swiss hold the steps long enough for the Pope's gates to close behind him. Then they keep fighting. The mission is accomplished. The Pope is safe. There is no military reason to continue. 147 dead, every one of them facing forward. The Landsknechts take roughly 1,000 casualties getting up those steps. They storm past the bodies into St. Peter's and stable their horses in the basilica.
They have won the field.
But here is what the 30-year rivalry actually came down to. The Landsknechts operated on contracts, and contracts expire. The men who sacked Rome were fighting unpaid, on mutiny, for personal plunder. The contract had already failed them. The Swiss Guard operated on an oath, sworn individually, by name, in front of God and the Pope, to faithfully, loyally, and honorably serve, to sacrifice their lives if necessary. No expiry date, no renegotiation, no clause that ends when the odds become impossible. Maximilian could copy the Pike squares. He could copy the formations and the discipline and the silence before contact. He could not copy an oath. And on those steps, that was the only thing that mattered. The Swiss Guard is rebuilt within a year. Pope Clement issues recruitment orders from inside Castel Sant'Angelo, still besieged, still a prisoner. The Landsknechts fade across the next century as gunpowder tactics make Pike squares obsolete. The Swiss Guard is still there. Every year on May 6th, new recruits swear the same oath. Three fingers raised, the same words in the same square on the anniversary of the day the Landsknechts proved you can build a copy of anything except the thing that makes it real. The men who were built to replace them never could. The steps of St. Peter's are wide. Ash and Iron. Find us on YouTube and Facebook. Search Ash and Iron, history that does not flinch.